My name is Christopher Lautre, and my nickname is Apocalypse. We've been on the competitive scene since, I'd say, 2001, and for the most part of that, we've actually played with the same team, which is Damage Control. Damage Control started in the 1.6 version of Counter-Strike. Obviously, these days we play Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which is a different version. And in 1.6, we were very successful, arguably the most successful team, and we went overseas a total of about 7 times to play. And then there was a bit of a lull in the sport, but it's now picked up again, and with a plethora of events happening, we've come back into the scene, but obviously not quite at the same level. So we're chasing the tails of the guys. We're still quite close to the top. So that's where our team is, and right now we're at the EG LAN in Cape Town. So in terms of Counter-Strike Global Offensive this year in South Africa, it was actually quite interesting. Right at the beginning of the year, there was a whole new format of the top 8 teams being put into a Masters League, which hadn't happened before. So that definitely rose the level up, because in order to stay in the Masters League, you have to attend certain events and have to play online leagues. And not only that, that was run by one company, and then other leagues have been run by other companies. So you have to play a lot more and be a lot more active. What's quite interesting about Global Offensive is a lot of the COD players have come across. Now, at the beginning, that didn't particularly worry us because we've got a long history of Counter-Strike, and we thought they're not really going to be able to bridge the gap, but that's turning out not to be the case. You have amazing players like Makmur coming in as an AWPer, who's one of the top AWPers in the country right now, coming out of COD, and you have players coming in from Counter-Strike Source, Counter-Strike 1.6, and COD joining in, so the skill level has improved. Not only that, with guys playing so much, the teams have improved. So whereas before it used to be us and Bravado, any final pick a competition, now you're finding guys like Carbon actually picking up competitions off Bravado. You know, you're finding guys like APG putting right in the mix. You can bank on them to win a final. So it's really interesting how the teams, there's a core 4 or 5 teams in the country, but in that there's no longer just 5 or 6 players that are dominating the sport. There's 20 guys that you can put into the top team, and they would compete any day of the week. It's quite an interesting question, and one that I've been asked quite a lot is being older. Again, firstly, how do you feel about competing being older? And secondly, do you feel that you've got slower? Which seems to be everyone's just assuming at some stage you're going to get slower. And I haven't really found that yet, but I find that being older, you have a lot more decisions to make based on your information. So I've faced about 1,000 scenarios, whereas the younger guys are just like, oh, click and shoot him. You know, where I was got to think, okay, what is the best thing to do? And I'm busy churning, which may make you slower, but my predictive skills and our teamwork is better, which is why I still think we're hanging in there. So I haven't really noticed on the speed side, but definitely in terms of being able to put time into the sport. All of us have got full-time jobs, and there's no ways we can commit the same amount of hours that we used to, which is a pity. And I think it would be a more fair analysis if we played the same amount of hours as the younger guys to really see what the differences were. I would say that if you are brand new to the scene and you want to form a team, I wouldn't start necessarily with that as a starting point. I would start at the point where players like Litchlord are starting, where you are surrounding the scene. So you'll sub in for a lot of the top teams. You'll be available to play. You'll join the ESWC network, where you can jump in and join games where you have Bravado guys playing, NG guys playing, DC guys playing all the time. So your experience level goes up individually to the point where you're actually contributing and subbing for these guys. So at the moment, right now for this competition, purely based on what we've seen over the last couple of weeks in competing in the online leagues, I think Bravado is pretty far ahead overall. I think right behind them, the second runner to me would be Carbon. The dark horse would be APG, because APG have a very slow, patient, strategical style of play, and that can work against any team depending on the game. Obviously, if momentum's going against them, I don't see them winning, but if APG take their slow, methodical, strategic way of playing, they can win any game as well. I think we were right up there for an upset, especially because earlier this week we did take a map off Carbon, and to face Bravado in the finals, we will have to beat Carbon. So I think those would be your top 4. I'm not sure about the bottom 4, I haven't really focused that much, and especially because we haven't really played them in the last few weeks. We've mostly been focusing on playing against APGs and Carbons and BVDs to try and keep ourselves solidified in the top 4. I think in terms of individual gameplay, the overseas experience makes a huge difference. And the reason being is that you can watch a football game on TV and watch the guys and think, that's brilliant. But unless you're on the ground playing on the field, you're not getting the full experience of what it's like. So as a player, you can be playing in the South African scene and just crushing guys and thinking, man, I'm amazing. And you go overseas and you get smacked 16-0 and you're like, well, maybe I'm not that amazing. And then you can start to analyze why. And it's not necessarily individual things. It could be team play, it could be, but you realize that now there's a ceiling that you have to climb to. Whereas here, if you're on the top level, there's no real drive and motivation because you've just got to put a little 10% performance in and you'll crush the guys locally. So it just brings you into perspective of how much growth there is for players and gives you that drive to, okay, how do I get to the next level and the next level and the next level?